Hello and welcome everyone, this is Calebovitsch coming to you with another episode of Deck Check. Now, Eternals Set 8, aka Echoes of Eternity, is almost upon us, and with it, more than 200 cards, some of them even being very cool and build-around-ish and make me want to make so many new decks all around. But that's not upon us yet. I mean, we've seen many of the cards so far. I mean, hopefully you've seen the spoilers that are abound everywhere. But I personally don't like theory crafting without seeing all the cards that are in a set. So today you will still see an old deck that in the Throne format. I don't want to do any expedition because probably that's going to get a major overhaul with the curated card list for the drafts, and that is the card list for the expedition itself. It's probably going to change, I don't know how much, so doing an expedition deck for 2 days is out of the question, so I wanted to focus on Throne for a moment. And there is a deck. There is a one-turn kill deck that I had played a year ago, give or take, for the first time. And recently, a card from there has been buffed and nerfed at the same time, which made me want to get back at this deck yet again. You might have seen it on one of my Eternal highlights, and here you're gonna see it again, and now you'll maybe even understand what the combo is about. And yeah, without any further ado, here is Herald of Bad News. Check this deck out. Herald of Bad News is just taking names of 2 of the 3 combo pieces. Maybe it should be Cabal Herald of Bad News. That would be the whole explanation of the whole combo that is in the deck. This is, as I said, a rather combo deck that wants to kill the opponent in 1 turn, whether they have blockers or not. It does involve clicking a lot, unfortunately. This is not just sit back, take a look at Dizzo's Racket gaining you a ton of armor, and then Geminon sends a huge laser beam to the opponent's face. No, that's unfortunately not it. Here you have to click to get it all. So first I'll explain the centerpieces of the combo that work well together. So it all revolves around a card that is called Westwind Herald. It is a 5-cost double primal 2/2 flyer with Aegis, an elemental nonetheless, that says infiltrate, play a spell from your void. You get to play it for free. It doesn't get void bound. It can be replayed then yet again. The only thing is that this is a rather small unit for its stats, and it has to infiltrate, which means hit the enemy player. And also, yeah, the infiltrate is only a one-off, so you have to work for it to make this really work. So what you do is you attack with Westwind Herald, and you have a piece of bad news for the opponent in your void. This one is a 6-cost double fire warp spell that says ready your units, they can attack again, which gives you technically an additional combat phase, if you call it, if you will. The problem is this is a red spell, and you're not going to cast it for its red influence in here at all. What you are going to do is you're going to attack the opponent with Westwind Herald, hoping that they don't block, they don't kill Herald. You're going to trigger Westwind Herald's infiltrate. You're going to play a spell from your void. You're going to play bad news. You're going to ready your Herald. You're going to attack again. The problem is the Herald has already infiltrated, which means the infiltrate will not work unless you have Cabal Spymaster in play. This is a 4-cost Feln 4/4 rogue that says your units can infiltrate any number of times. So if you have a Cabal Spymaster in play and you're hitting the opponent, aka attacking your opponent with Westwind Herald, dealing 2 damage to them, you can replay bad news. You can attack with Westwind Herald again. It infiltrates again because you have Spymaster in play. You play bad news again. Rinse, repeat, click, 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 click. Boom goes the opponent's avatar. Yes, that is the whole combo. It evolves around 3 cards. 2 of them you have to have in play, 1 in your void. Okay. So what made me go back to this deck? Well, the so-called side buff or side nerf of Haunting Scream. This card used to be a 2-cost spell that played a unit with cost 4 or less from your void. Right now it's a 3-cost Felon spell that plays a unit with cost 5 or less from your void. The unit gets charge and flying, but you have to sacrifice it at the end of the turn. But the end of the turn won't come, you will win before that usually. So after Haunting Scream got nerfed, I said that there are many ways of building a new Haunting Scream deck. It could be either something like mid-range Felon with getting back cards like Rost, getting back cards like Umbran Reaper, etc., etc. But there is also a way of making this proc on Westwind Herald. So the earliest you can get the combo going is if you mill by Sporefolk or even Chairman's Contract your Westwind Herald and your Bad News. Then on turn 4 you play Cabal Spymaster, and on turn 5 you just go for Haunting Scream, get back Westwind Herald. It has Flying, Aegis, Charge, which means you're just going to get through there. In one of the first iterations, this was just a pure Felon deck, pure Primal Shadow deck. I mean, with the obvious addition of 4 pieces of Bad News, because you have to have it here, in your void rather, to be able to play it. But then, after playing some games with that 2-color version a couple of weeks ago, I thought, and I said to Twitch chat, there's a problem. There's a problem because Cabal Spymaster gets killed all the time. I mean, sure, Torch is not fast and only deals 3. All the Kairos choices and Conflagrates just deal 3. Annihilate doesn't hit it. Things that hit it on fast speed are stuff like Ice Bolt or maybe Desecrate, and that's about it. But there is a way of saving your Cabal Spymaster from getting destroyed, and that is having it shifted. So after some of Twitch chat's suggestions, I included a Reweave package into this deck. Reweave is a very combogenic spell usually. It's a 2-cost justice spell that says sacrifice a unit to play it from your deck. Sacrifice a unit to play a unit from your deck with the same cost or less and shift it. And I've seen some people still misreading this card, that the Reweave target should have the exact same cost as the Reweave unit you've sacrificed. No. It can have a lower cost. So for example, if you have a Westwind Herald in play, you can reweave it and get a Cabal Spymaster. And that comes into play sometimes. It certainly does. So this is the long and short of it. This is Cabal Spymaster, Westwind Herald, Bad News combo, 1-turn kill combo deck with some Justice tools as well. This deck has evolved a bit, but it is still, I think, rather... it could still be improved. Alongside having the need of getting Bad News to your void means you're gonna self-mill a bit. With cards like Sporefolk, it is a 2-cost 1/2 Sporefolk, obviously. Then on summon you get to discard the top 5 cards of your deck. Hopefully there is a Westwind Herald and a Bad News in there, but most of all Bad News. Because Westwind Herald, you can just play it on turn 5 and attack with it on turn 6. I mean, if you're winning anyway. So there is that. For self-mill, you also have 4 copies of Chairman's Contract. It is a power that doesn't give you any influence, but it allows you to discard the top 2 cards of your deck. And there are additional ways of discarding cards from your hand, and that is 4 copies of Honor of Claws. This is a 4-cost primal spell that says draw 3 cards, then discard a card. And that card you're discarding is usually a piece of Bad News, or Westwind Herald, or something you don't need right now. But you also have 3 copies of Herald Song. This is a 2-cost Echo spell, and Echo means when you draw it, you copy it. You have 2 copies of Herald Song in your hand. You get an additional copy when you're drawing this. And this says draw a card, then discard a card. And at its minimum, it is a 2-cost draw a card spell. Because technically, if you draw Herald Song and you have a copy of Herald Song, then you play 2, you draw an additional card, you discard the copy of Herald Song that was there for free. So technically you're just spending 2 power to draw a card. But this deck needs to have some cards in your void, which means which means that comes into play more often than not. So this is the long and short of it. There are a lot of cards to support all of this, obviously. So let me go through the units first. Given that we have the Reweave package, I've included 3 copies of Imperial Loyalist here. It is a 4-cost Justice 4/3 with Pledge, and that pledge sometimes comes into effect. It also has a renown ability of play another unit of your choice from your deck with a cost equal to or less than the spell or weapon that you are playing on Imperial Loyalist. And using spells such as Reweave or Devour on a renown unit does trigger the renown, which means if you have Imperial Loyalist in play and you play Reweave on it, you can get Cabal Spymaster into play, and it is shifted, which means it is safe from all targetable harm. It is not safe from harsh rule, etc., but it is safe from getting ice bolted. But also, you can play a Sporfolk, which mills you some cards. Hopefully, it's a piece of bad news or a Westwind Herald if you need it. Or you have a Silver Bullet or a toolbox card of sorts here that is called Unwavering Exorcist. It is a 2-cost 3/2 cleric that has 2 abilities. The first one says you are immune to damage from night, and this doesn't really come into effect. But the other one is great because it says summon, kill an enemy curse. And the enemy curse you usually want to kill is Adjudicator's Gavel. It's a card that some people are playing in their markets that says cards can't leave the cursed player's void, but that allows you, that Reweave target allows you to just get rid of the gavel. So you are technically running some anti-gavel things. This deck also is running 4 copies of Corendon Merchant. There's the Shadow Merchant, the 3-cost 2 Undeadly. That's a very defensive stat line because you just want to block the opponent's 5/6s, etc., etc., etc. But also on summon you get to swap a card from your hand to a shadow card in your market, and I'm going to get to the market later. We have 3 copies of Cabal Spymaster because the 4th copy is in the market. Oh wait, I've already gotten to the market. We also have 2 Silver Bullets that we can grab off of Reweave when we're sacrificing Imperial Loyalist or Westwind Herald. One of them is Daring Griffin, a 4-cost 3/2 a Flying Exalted Reckless Griffin that says when the enemy player plays a spell, sacrifice Daring Griffin to negate it. And if you're playing that weapon on Imperial Loyalist, you can trigger Renown for 4, you can get another one, etc., etc., etc. Well, generally, this is a Reweave target that just negates a spell. If you know the opponent is running any pieces of control, that is your way of ensuring that the first spell they play on your combo turn is getting negated. Also, you have 1 copy of Vara, Vengeance Seeker here. The 3/3 double shadow scion with lifesteal. And the main mode of this card here is that nothing can have Aegis. Also on summon, the enemy player must choose, sacrifice a unit, or they give Vara +2/+2 and deadly. Also, you have to remember the interaction with Reweave and generally the shift mechanic and Vara. If you Reweave a unit and get Vara into play shifted, the opponent cannot click on her. And to be able to sacrifice a unit or give Vara +2/+2 as deadly, half of it is clicking. If you want to give Vara +2/+2 and deadly, you have to click on Vara. If you don't want to do it, you have to sacrifice a unit. Or if you can't do it, because if Vara is shifted when she comes into play, you cannot click on Vara, which means you have to sacrifice a unit. And some people still don't know about that interaction because it's really a very niche one. But it is here, nonetheless. And rounding out the units, we have 4 copies of Westwind Herald that I've already talked about at the beginning of this explanation. Next up, we have some cheap pieces of stopping your opponents, and that is 2 copies of Permafrost, the 1-cost Primal Curse that stuns the cursed unit, and 4 copies of Suffocate, a 1-cost shadow spell that kills a unit with 3 attack or less. You could think about going 3 and 3 or stuff like that, but I found that you really want to suffocate some targets more than you want to permafreeze them, and you usually just want to get rid of the early game cards such as Initiate of Descent, such as Hojan, such as Teacher of Humility, etc., etc. I mean, Teacher is not a huge problem, but still. It is a 2-cost 3/3 unit. I've talked about Herald Song already. We have 3 copies of Privilege of Rank here also. There's a 2-copy Justice spell that says draw a Justice Sigil from your deck. Easy peasy. But also, if Privilege of Rank is discarded, play it from your void. Which means if you either self-mill it with Sporfolk or Chairman's Contract, or if you discard it from your hand with Herald, Song, or Honor of Claws, you get to play it for free and you get to draw a Justice Sigil, which means that technically instead of discarding a card, you're drawing a Justice Sigil, or turning a card from your hand into a Justice Sigil. And the best piece of interaction is you don't need to have any Justice influence in play to be able to play it from your void if it's getting discarded, which means if you're playing just a pure Feln deck, or even if you're playing Chairman's Contract on turn 1 because you want to, and there is a Privilege of Rank that you are milling, that you are discarding from the top of cards of your deck, you get to play Privilege of Rank, you get to grab a Justice Sigil. And that's it. There are 3 copies of Reweave here. You might think about getting a 4th one, but the Reweave package is just some support. It is not the be-all end-all here. 3 copies of Haunting Scream. I've already talked about it. There is a 4th copy in the market because this is a rather important piece of the combination. Honor of Claws, I've already talked about it, and 3 copies of Harsh Rule. This is the 5-cost double justice spell that says kill all units and that no one is expecting in a combo deck. And the genesis of getting Harsh Rules here is honestly someone in Twitch chat saying, but you're getting double justice more often than not. Maybe Harsh Rule? And then I said, yes. I mean, you don't need to be playing Harsh Rules here, but given that you're not really unit heavy, you're not really playing a lot of things in the early turns, you're just drawing some cards, you're just playing out some power, you're just self-milling some cards, you're just assembling the pieces of your combo, and being able to reset the board on turn 5 or later is a good thing to be able to do. Rounding out the deck, we have the power base. 4 copies of Bad News, I've talked about them already, so let's go to the power. 9 sigils, 3 of each. Usually you would go lower on the Justice Sigils, but you need to have them in your deck still for Privilege of Rank to be any good. So if you are able to Crest of Cunning a Justice Sigil to the bottom of your deck, to scout a Justice Sigil to the bottom of your deck, you usually want to do that. We also have 4 seats that are blue and green and purple and green, 8 copies of Feln sources, crests and seats, and 4 copies of Chairman's Contracts. And more often than not, you shouldn't have a lot of influence problems in this deck, but also remember that in this deck it is more prudent than not to try and redraw to a good 6-card hand than keep a bad second 7. Rounding out the deck, we have our market that we can grab with Current and Merchant. And the main card in the market that you've not seen yet is Secret Passage. It is a 1-cost Shadow Relic that says once per turn you may pay 2 to give one of your units unblockable, but you have to sacrifice it at the end of the turn. But also unsummon, which means when you're playing this card for 1, you get to give one of your units unblockable this turn. And this is more often than not, this is the card that people are not expecting when they're assembling their defenses, so you cannot infiltrate them with Westwind Herald. Because if you manage to have that Secret Passage in your hand and you're comboing off, you play Secret Passage, you give your flyer unblockable, and then you can just attack without worrying about any and all defenders. Next up, there is one piece of Aramod's design here. It is a 2-cost shadow spell that kills each unit with cost 2 or less. And I think it's necessary for you not to be overrun in the early game. I mean, the ability of grab it with Current and Merchant and just play it and just decimate the opponent's early aggression, or a lot of tokens, what have you, or rather what they have for just a moment more. There is a Slay, just a spell that just kills a unit. And that's it. And you also have a 4th copy of Haunting Scream and a 4th copy of Cabal Spymaster. I mean, if this was a blue merchant, I would just play a copy of Westwind Herald here as well. You could include several copies of Gen of Merchants here as well for the 4th of Westwind Herald to be in the market, because you can grab Cabal Spymaster and Haunting Scream with that one as well, and then your Slay can become Feeding Time or something like that, a card that you can grab with both of them. So you're just then sacrificing probably Aramod's designs to grab a Westwind Herald. You're sacrificing Slay for another piece of removal. And then you have 3 Feln cards, 1 Shadow card, and 1 Primal card. And you're running something like 3 Karendon and 3 Gen of Merchants. So that is a thing you might want to do here. When it comes to strategy, you want to assemble your combo, but you also want to prod the opponent whether or not they have any stops on your combo turn. And that sometimes means you're attacking with Westwind Herald, the one that still can infiltrate, and seeing if the opponent has any stops. And if they don't, you're replaying Bad News. Then you're playing your Cabal Spymaster or Haunting Scream or Cabal Spymaster back into play. And then you just start re-attacking with your Westwind Herald. Also, this deck is obviously rather weak to cards that interfere with your Void. There is a copy of Unwavering Exorcist to get rid of the most common card that is used to combat Voids, that is Adjudicator's Gavel. But the opponent can just be playing stuff like Nullblade, can be playing stuff like Waylay, can be playing stuff like Luminary Claimer. And then it is honestly tough. If you cannot replay your Bad News from your Void, then you're just playing a mid-range-ish deck that does not have a lot of interaction, but you theoretically could get there with, well, just getting Secret Passage, just making some of your units unblockable, maybe grabbing that Vara, and stuff like that. But it is going to be rather difficult than not. Also, you have to remember that Westwind Herald is really the best card in this deck. Even if you're just playing it on turn 5 and you usually want to just smack it down into play on turn 5 unless you want to Harshal the board away. Remember, for example, if you already have Herald in play and you want to attack with it, you can play Honor of Claws, draw 3, discard 1. Then you can attack with Westwind Herald. You don't need to go for Bad News, on your first attack. You can just replay Honor of Claws, draw an additional 3 cards, and discard an additional card. So having Honor of Claws here really makes you dig deeper into your deck, especially with those Heralds. So there is that. Also, do not be afraid to Haunting Scream for stuff if you really need it. For example, Haunting Scream an Imperial Loyalist to reweave it into a Cabal Spymaster or something like that. This deck also seems to be rather prone to silence, especially your Cabal Spymaster. But if you have a silenced Cabal Spymaster or a silenced Westwing Herald, Wind Herald, remember you can still reweave it for another copy of Herald or for another copy of Spymaster. Sometimes, more often than not, you have to think a lot if you can assemble the combo in a turn. Also, more often than not, you just need to get lucky with those self-mills of getting that Bad News into your Void and just drawing all of the combo pieces, because it is not a 3+4 version for all combo pieces. There is no special way for you to get those Bad News into your Void. They have to be in the top X cards of your deck. Otherwise, well, you just have to dig for them with your Honor of Claws, and that's it. Okay. This was a rather long explanation of this deck that I hope will bring you a lot of joy, especially when you're taking a look at the games that I'm going to show you in a moment. And we have our first contestant. And given that we already have a reweave here and a privilege of rank that we can discard off of Herald's Song, even if on turn 3, then it should be good. We also have 2 pieces of Feln power. That Herald Song is just going to give us some advantage. We have Reweave to grab Cabal Spymaster, so yeah, this should be rather okay. So let's start with Scouting up on the Imperial Loyalist, and this one gave me pause. And I thought about bottoming it, but yeah, we do have the Reweave here. Yes, we can assemble the combo this way, because remember, Reweaving Imperial Loyalist grabs us a protected Cabal Spymaster and also a Sporfolk that can mill some cards for us. Privilege of Rank from the opponent, something I was not expecting. And we get to Herald Song, draw a card, discard that Privilege of Rank, grab a Justice Sigil. We don't have any Justice Influence yet, but that is being played for free. and just playing that Justice Sigil right now and ending the turn and seeing what the opponent is up to, aside from playing Privilege of Rank in a Huru deck. At that time I was thinking the opponent is just playing a version of Reanimator as well, but it turns out they're not. Okay, another Herald Song, just trying to dig for power. Right now I don't believe Daring Griffin in this matchup. I mean, Daring Griffin is the one-off that I usually do not need, but it is there for some situations. Okay, Sporfolk, let's get some nasty cards, nasty combo cards into the void. There is just a Haunting Scream there and a Harshul, and the opponent must think, what the heck is he playing? And they are correct. They also have something fast on 4 that they're not playing. Another Privilege of Rank. Seems the opponent is just assembling their army. Okay, getting power screwed is never really good. And although this is a combo deck in which when you're playing against an aggressive deck, you don't want to attack to get some damage in, you just want to go full on the defense here. But in this case, if the opponent is playing a control deck, there is always a plan of just going mid-range on them and trying to attack them even for 1, for 2, etc, etc. Now here I got lucky and grabbed a second Privilege of Rank off of my Sporfolk, which means on the following turn, on the next turn, I can Honor of Claws and probably get Reweave to the Void. The problem is opponent has Aegis, which means I might want to get Vara in here sooner or later if I have something rather nasty. On the other hand, there's a piece of bad news here that I'm very glad to get rid of. On the other hand, if I have to be honest, face Aegis on the opponent doesn't stop the infiltrate off of Westwind Herald because I'm playing something from my void. This is just attacking the opponent. This is not smacking them with an ability or a spell or anything like that. And right now, just play Westwind Herald. I mean, next turn I can almost assemble the combo. I just need Cabal Spymaster. And even if I don't have that Cabal Spymaster, I still have some options here. The opponent plays Harshul into Permafrost, which makes me a sad panda, but I do have an idea here, because I can reweave a Permafrosted Westwind Herald into Cabal Spymaster, which is shifted, which is safe from harm, and then I can Haunting Scream my Westwind Herald back and attack the opponent. I have not 1 but 2 Karendon Merchants, which means I can grab both Haunting Scream and I can grab Secret Passage here if I need to. I think I can get rid of a Permafrost here or a Reweave or the Bad News. So yeah, I'm just going for Haunting Scream. But in the end, I just ended the turn. I didn't go for the other piece of the combo. For example, if the opponent has a huge blocker here. But it turns out the opponent just plays a 9th power and Martyr's Chains, and well, they're all tapped out, as they say in Magic, which means I can just proceed with the combo, which means grabbing my Cabal Spymaster and having Westwind Herald and getting it to the void, replaying Westwind Herald and giving it a charge, attacking with both because we can, it is less clicking, play Bad News, give the opponent some bad news, attack again, 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 give the opponent some bad news again, and oh wait, Calebovitsch, he's already dead. Yeah, this is some clicking, but fortunately, if the opponent doesn't have any stops, it should go rather fast. And remember, you can infiltrate again and again and again and again because you have that Cabal Spymaster there. Okay, combo achieved. Let's get on to game number 2. Counterspell? I hope they don't. Also, 6 power is too much. Now this is a lot better. We have Merchant for Spymaster. We have Scream for Herald. We just need Bad News in the void. So yeah, also we were missing a piece of blue influence, but there we have it. There we have it. And Daring Griffin, if the opponent is starting on Stonescar on Bloodseeker, I don't believe we're gonna need a counter spell for them. Wink wink, nod nod. Shake it down. They're gonna probably take Haunting Scream, was my thought at this point, but they are indeed grabbing our Merchant, which is another valid option here, obviously. And we are drawing an additional card, and right now, given that we don't need green, I'm just self-milling for 2 cards and self-milling for 5 more cards. There's also, there is also a consideration of keeping Chairman's Contract up at the ready because Bad News has Warp. So you'll see if there is some bad news on the horizon, and then you can play your power and then you can discard it. But it turns out the opponent is playing something rather not standard, a Calamity Oracle, a unit that can mill us as well, so I would like to start by thanking the opponent in advance, and that is a piece of bad news here as well. I would like to thank the opponent in advance for milling us, for helping us to get some cool things into the void. And I think these are just gonna block here just to buy me some more time, more time to assemble the combo. Fervent Siphoner, sure, it doesn't do much right now. Playing green, playing Honor of Claws, discarding probably what looks like a Shadow Sigil. Oh wait, there is a Westwind Herald in here and a Cabal Spymaster. So given that I don't have a second Primal Influence, I'm opting, and two copies of Haunting Scream, I'm opting to ditch Westwind Herald now to play Cabal Spymaster on turn 5, and on turn 6, if they kill Cabal Spymaster, I can Haunting Scream one, I can Haunting Scream the other, and just win in the air, given that the opponent doesn't have any flying blockers or pieces of removal for Cabal Spymaster, obviously. But so far, it doesn't seem like they have many stops. I also drew Permafrost, which I can play on their 4-5, just to have some units at the ready here. And the cool part of my combo is that I can Haunting Scream attack, play Bad News. If the opponent kills Cabal Spymaster somewhere in between, I can play Haunting Scream and re-scream my Cabal Spymaster. So let's go for Westwind Herald. Let's attack with him. The opponent doesn't have any stops, which means we're just playing Bad News and attacking several more times. But this time the opponent fortunately didn't make me click all the way through. They knew what was happening. And a 3, a 2, a 1, a boom. Alright, on to game number 3. Now that is a cool playmat. And that is also a cool hand. We have Westwind Herald. We can grab something with our current merchant, probably Cabal Spymaster. We have a way of discarding things. We have a Reweave on the merchant for a Sporefolk if we need to self-mill some more. Yeah, sure, why not? Also starting off with this, if we draw something like Herald Song, and the opponent is playing Stonescar Crest, putting a card to the bottom, and that is Herald Song. That is very good. So yes, I am self-milling for 2 and playing one of those Herald Songs and ditching one Westwind Herald. So we have 1 in hand and 1 in void. Quarry and a green influence, and ditching a Seek Power, which means the opponent is on Windchest control, or mid-range, however you want to call it. And right now I'm just getting the last Herald Song out, getting our Cabal Spymaster, our next piece of the combo. Windchest Cargo, sure. The opponent is solidifying their power here. Playing Quarry, yeah, just... Ooh, ditching Vara. That's very interesting, honestly. And, yeah, this is a free attack. Doesn't cost us anything. I can just go here and play Cabal Spymaster, because why not? I mean, there is a world where I just go for it. Could have also just played Honor of Claws, but the opponent was on 3 power, not on 4 power, which made me not want to go for that, because the opponent has to wait until turn 5 to Harsh Rule. And the opponent is going for premium alt art, Rakano Smuggler. Grabbing something that is probably removal for our 4/4. And if they have like almost any piece of removal, I'm just gonna play Westwind Herald here anyway. Just play the Justice Sigil, play the Westwind Herald, so that on the following turn, if for example a Harsh Rule and I can't combo yet, I can Honor of Claws, attack with Herald, Honor of Claws again, maintain some semblance of semblance of card advantage. Excuse me. Vara Vengeance Seeker. Okay, so the opponent first wants to get rid of my Aegis. That additional attack and deadly and Vara doesn't matter. We're OTK, so we're either winning or not. I was thinking whether to Crest of Cunning first or to Honor of Claws first. Because right now, if there is bad news in one of the top cards, I can get it anyway. Yeah, I didn't draw it. I can go for Chairman's Contract now. But it was not in the top 2 cards anyway. And I know it's not the top card of my deck. Because Bad News has Warp, so Herald Song doesn't do anything. So I opted to go for this, to grab a Sporfolk here. Because if Bad News isn't the top 5 cards, I'm winning now. But it was not. We just got a Privilege of Rank for our second Justice Sigil, 3rd Justice Influence. So unfortunately there is that, but we can still attack with Westwind Herald and grab our Honor of Claws back. And draw 3 and discard something. And I opted to keep both Imperial Loyalists here. I was not thinking blocking was prudent, because they could have gone for Pristine Light, but they indeed did have Harsh Rule in their void. Right now I want to go for Honor of Claws and Kerendon Merchant for Haunting Scream. And there it is, Bad News, finally. So yes, Kerendon Merchant, probably get rid of an Imperial Loyalist. Grab the Haunting Scream. And hope the opponent doesn't have any fast sources of interaction there. Because next turn I can just Cabal Spymaster and Haunting Scream my unit back. And the opponent is playing Rezan. Okay. We can't get through Rezan like this because I don't have Secret Passage yet, which made me want to go for Harsh Rule first to get rid of that Rezan. I know it has Reckless, but still. And then play Kerendon Merchant, get rid of Herald Song or a Power, probably Power, and go for Secret Passage, because if the opponent has a similar action next turn, I just need my 8 power to combo through a Rezan. And you know what? That is exactly what the opponent did. Played Rezan number 2 on our Merchant. But we have 8 power. The opponent doesn't have any power left, which means we can Cabal Spymaster, we can Haunting Scream the Westwind Herald back, and we can play Secret Passage for 1, giving Westwind Herald unblockable this turn. We can attack, give the opponent some bad news. Then we can attack again, give the opponent some more bad news. Attack again, and that's it. Alright, these were 3 fun games, hopefully for you. So yeah, let's now head back to the studio and talk about this deck some more. WB, welcome back. I hope you did enjoy the games. So, yeah, that is the deck. It is much better when your opponents don't know what's happening. When your opponents don't know, you have the harsh rule mode here. When your opponents don't know, you have a secret passage in the market. Or if they just don't know what's happening. Even if they do know what's happening, I tried to make this deck so it is rather difficult to mess with the combo. The most difficult part of this deck, though, is redrawing. You need to have as much of the combo here as possible. You need your Westwind Herald, usually, and a Cabal Spymaster, or a Hunting Scream, or a Corendon Merchant, hopefully a card draw like Honor of Claws or maybe Herald Song, probably a piece of early removal like Suffocate in case the opponent is playing an aggressive deck, and some self-mail would be really nice. Okay, this is going to be it for the deck and for the deck check. If you have any questions on how this works, you can just write it in the comments below, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible, or you can just grab me on my Discord channel or on my Twitch channel. This is going to be it for this week. Calebovitsch out. See ya next time. And next time is going to be, I hope, a deck including some Echoes of Eternity cards. Yes, indeed. Also, dear viewer, remember, if you're enjoying the show and would like to show some support, click on subscribe.